Hello, Biblionauts, and good morning. Late morning for me. I don't know what time you will see this video, so it might not be morning to you. But for me, it's a late morning because I had an interesting night. I was trying to sleep. Not trying really. I actually fell asleep so easily. It was wonderful. I had the fire on, which took me a while to turn on. I've never struggled so much with turning a fire on than this time. And I was just on my sleeping bag reading, and then I fell asleep, and everything was great. Hearing sort of like the rain and the wind outside the window. But as the night went on, the rain and the wind, especially the wind, increased a lot. A lot. I couldn't tell, but I've sailed on 30 knots before, and it didn't feel as aggressive as this wind was, especially the gusts. I don't know if you also call them gusts when you're on land, but I think so. The gusts were definitely more than 30 knots, which that is very fast wind, that is very strong. And so I was sleeping, and I'm not the kind to wake up easily unless there's a real reason. But I'm sleeping, as you see, next to the window, and during the night the window flew away. It went, and I'm lucky none of the glasses broke, so I was able to put it back. It's pretty much the same as it was before, except that now there is two ropes. I don't think you can see them from there. Maybe there's that thin thing there. But except for the locker, which is broken now, the window is still functional. I don't know how much that will last. One of my golden rules when I come to anything like this, any sort of like into the wild adventure, is to bring rope. And this time I chose to bring less rope than ever before because I had two different rolls of duct tape. And now I'm regretting it. I always bring at least like a good 5 meters of very thin, strong rope, and not this time. So I had to make very sketchy knots, and it took me a while to lock it because the wind was also pulling against it as I was trying to put it in. But there it is. So I managed to spend the rest of the evening still warm and dry, but I couldn't sleep anymore. I was alert. It was like 4 or 5, I don't know the time, but it was still dark. So I picked the Kindle for the first time to read the first book I've ever read on a Kindle. I've read in tablets before, but this is the first one I've read on a Kindle, I believe. And I started reading Anna Sewell's Black Beauty. This is, I don't know who recommended this to me first, but probably I think it was Book Olive that had it on her top favorite books, fiction books or something like that. I think I saw it in Book Olive's channel, but then I was reading Steve Donaghy's top best non-fiction for the year, and one of them was a non-fiction book about this book and the impact that it had in society. And I was like, I want to read that, but if I want to read that, maybe I read this first. So I did. I read this in 2 sittings. And I don't know how long it is because the Kindle doesn't really tell you the number of pages. It tells you in relation to the Kindle's size. I don't believe that each page in this Kindle is a page on real life, on the real book. So I don't know how many pages it has, but I felt like it was quite quick at reading it. And that is partially because it's very, 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 very readable. Also easy because I don't know if it was targeted towards children, but it definitely is very simple. It's a very simple story. It reminds me a lot of like some of my favorite cartoon movies when I was a kid. Spirit, for example. The other one was about a black horse as well, but I don't know the English name. It was Azabache, which was about a black horse that was forced to go mining. And those, that's a very old cartoon. I don't think you will know it, but so it was sort of like, in some ways it felt, I could see how probably this book inspired those. I didn't check the time when it was written. Maybe I should have done that. I'll do that. I mean, I probably when I read the nonfiction book about it, I'll learn that. But I enjoy this book a lot. It obviously touches on some of my sweet tooths for things. One is sort of like animals and sort of like any struggle against any form of unnecessary oppression, if there is or there has ever been some form of necessary oppression. But at the end of the day, these animals are slaves to us, and I don't care what some people will say that their horses or their dogs or wherever want to be with them. I think with dogs is different because dogs did there was a mutual agreement between dogs and humans to share sort of like lives, right? And even then, very very rarely do I see owners that sort of like give back to their dogs as much as the dogs are giving to them. But with horses and other animals, and horses are still very privileged in relation to this. Could have been sort of a black pig or black cow, and the story would have been even sadder. Which is, I mean, it's not very sad because at the end of the day, as I said, this feels like a targeted towards children. It's very Dickensian. It reads like a Dickens novel, except that this is actually cozy reading for me. Dickens was a bit boring. But this dog might as well have been David Copperfield because the story is, in some ways, it's incredibly similar. And it's written in first person by the horse, or told by the horse. And I feel like that gives it of course, it's humanizing the horse and everything, but it I think it's very, especially probably for the time, I'm assuming this is very old. And I feel like it's a really good way to get people who probably, because I think this was definitely targeting, it feels like it was targeting people who had never thought about sort of like animals' rights or anything like that before, to appeal to them. So having the story told in first person is a really good way to very quickly, without even having to ask much empathy from them, making the reader push himself in like the animal's position. So I'm very excited to read the book about it and about the impact that it had, because I can imagine, if this is as old as I think it is, that it did have a lot of impact. I can already think of like those two cartoons that I'm sure were inspired by this book. And but it also has, as I said, like it has this touch of Dickens, which probably, I don't know, probably Anna Sewell was a reader of Dickens before writing this novel. I don't know, that's a guess. Also, it reminded me a little bit of the book and movie 12 Years of Slavery. Some people might find that offensive or something, because it's comparing sort of like a human struggle against oppression with an animal. I don't make any difference when it comes to that. So for me, the analogy is completely pertinent. Either way, this was a cozy read. I'm sure, it can be sad or hard to read to some people. There's much sadder stories to be told about animals than that of horses, and it has a Dickensian ending as well. So as bad as it could have been, and as bad it has been for some of the horses that appear in this book, and our protagonist has a happy ending, a very nice circular ending. So yeah, this is definitely a recommend. I enjoyed it, especially if you're looking for a cozy reading, something that sort of like will be easy and welcoming. This is, as I said, incredibly readable. Very rarely do I read books in 1 or 2 sittings, and this I could have read in 1 sitting if it weren't for everything else. But yeah, I don't know what I will read after. I only have a couple more books in here, and I only have 2 physical books. This one that I want to get rid of, so I'll read it very soon so I can leave it here. And The Dawn of Everything, which if I have time, I might even make not a read along, because as these videos, of course, are not gonna be posted on the time. Well, when you're seeing this video, I'll probably be weeks away from now, still here probably, or in some other bothy like this, but no, it couldn't be in time. But so maybe not a real one, but maybe like an in-depth analysis of the book, of The Dawn of Everything. I might go like chapter by chapter or something like that. So yeah, that's been my night and my morning. I recommend this book, and yeah, have a nice day. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you, Victor.